Most of what we are told about shadow work is wrong. It's not about journaling prompts, it's not about trauma catharsis, and it's not an aesthetic mood that we switch up every new moon. Shadow work is the uncomfortable honesty of seeing those parts of us that we normally shy away from, that we normally hide. Not because they're evil, but because we've hidden them away for some reason. And anything that's hidden in your subconscious tends to run your life from the background. When people talk about shadow, they often are talking about the darker aspects of their personality. But the truth is much simpler. The shadow is whatever you refuse to see about yourself. Your fear of being rejected, your habit of people pleasing, your anger that you pretend isn't just simmering away beneath the surface. That feeling of never being good enough that you try and hide and pretend isn't there. All of that sits in the darkness until you're ready to look at it. And the problem is that most approaches to shadow work that you'll see on social media are designed to make people feel better. But the real work doesn't make you feel better at the start. It feels uncomfortable. It feels like friction. If it soothes you instantly, it probably isn't shadow work. The moment you feel that inner resistance, that uncomfortable, icky feeling, that is where the real work starts. The way that I practice and use shadow work, the shadow is just part of a larger process. First of all, you have vision that shows you where you want to move towards. And then you have shadow, which shows the blockage in between yourself and that vision. And then finally, we have sacrifice. This is where the blockage turns into energy that helps propel you towards your vision. You can't skip any of these steps. And as far as I can tell, it always happens in this order. I was recently recording a 22-day series of breath work and guided meditations through the Major Arcana of the Tarot. I'll put a link to the playlist in the description to this video. When we got to the death cards, I realized something. I realized how long I'd been hiding my real spiritual identity. Not consciously, I'd just been quietly avoiding it. I told myself it wasn't the right time to talk about it, people wouldn't understand, they wouldn't be interested. But the truth was that I was afraid to be seen for who I really am. And seeing that was painful. It was uncomfortable. It was like a small ego death. But once I'd seen it, I couldn't pretend that I hadn't. And in that moment, that realization, everything changed. It had to. So what does real shadow work look like? Well, it looks like noticing when you try to deflect. It looks like noticing when you blame. It's feeling an emotion without suppressing it or without letting it explode. It's seeing a pattern just as a pattern and not a fundamental truth about who you are as a person. And being able to hold yourself with compassion and kindness whilst you're in these moments, that is the real work. And the breath helps. If you can consciously breathe whilst looking at these uncomfortable shadows, the pattern begins to change and the shadow starts to loosen its grip over your life. So try this today. Next time you feel triggered, notice that trigger and pause. Take a deep breath in and quietly say to yourself, I see this. I see this trigger. I see the emotions that I have at the moment. I see the thoughts that I have now because of this trigger. I see the habits. I see the behaviors that I want to do now. I see the judgments about others and myself that I have in this moment. And do nothing else. Just see it and notice what begins to change. Shadow work is not about fixing ourselves. It's about being honest with ourselves. And when you become honest with yourself, life begins to change. It has to. It can't not. This is the real work and it is absolutely worth doing. It is why we're here.